Hello people, today I'm going to be doing a ranking of every single episode of WandaVision. I decided to do this just because every single episode is so different in this show, so I decided maybe I should just go ahead and rank them. Before I rank them, I'm going to say I at least like every single episode in this show. The lowest score I gave was a 7 out of 10. And so I will be recapping the scores that I gave each episode, but overall, it I like all of them. So yeah, anyways, let's get into it. Coming in at number 9 is episode 4, which is the sword catch-up video where you just kind of, they catch you up on everything that's been going on in Sword. And basically, there's zero Wanda or Vision in this episode, except for maybe the last 2 minutes or so. And so this definitely felt like an extremely bland episode filled with Marvel exposition, and that's about it. And it's cool to see everything play out. It's just it totally lost the feel of the show of what it was before. It lost all its style, and it just felt like a Marvel TV show. It looks like something I see like on Agents of Shield or something like that. What is going on with this hat, right, or this hood? Anyways, yeah, episode 4, I liked it. It's entertaining. I need to fix this. I look ridiculous. Episode 4, it's entertaining, but it's nothing where I go, oh, great. So, yeah, anyways, coming in at number 8 is episode 7, which is a very stalling-like episode. It still offers that big twist at the end where it was Agatha all along. But there's an Office and Modern Family vibe to it, and it's fine. It's not a too memorable episode. It doesn't necessarily get anything accomplished. The premise so far, well, how the premise started for the episode is all this stuff keeps shifting around Wanda's house or in the Hex, and it just never comes back. It has no relevance to the show at all, and it 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 still had what really kept the show up is one, the style of the show. It's still very much a WandaVision episode, but it just doesn't stick the landing like the other episodes do. And my final score for episode 7 is quite generous. I think that is an 8.1 out of 10. Coming in at number 7 is episode 1. I like this episode. It's a great introductory to the show, and I have a fun time with it. It's not too bad, and it's that fun premise. Oh, is it the wife thinks it's an anniversary, the husband thinks it's a meeting with the boss for dinner. So it's a fun premise. It has subtle hints here and there. It's a mystery which is fun to dissect, and it's just an overall fun introduction to all of this. So I'm going to give episode 1 an 8.2 out of 10. Coming in at number 6 is episode 3, which is where the twins are born. I like the episode. It's about 30 minutes long, and I'll tell you what happened. She had twins. That's really all there is to the episode. There is some, of course it has that whole, Monica Rambeau thing at the end, which directly leads into episode 4. And it's really, really, fun to, look back at that. And this is a very fun episode to look back in retrospective. So, it's, especially with the Agatha twist, this episode really holds up, especially with that twist. I enjoy this episode. Not exactly too much happens, but it really implies for the rest of the show. And I'm going to give episode 3 an 8.4 out of 10. Coming in at number 5 is episode 2. This is where we have probably the best premise applied to WandaVision out of all the shows. This is probably the premise I enjoyed most out of those couple of premises that we had for, it's basically stuck in a sitcom, but with subtle hints to what the future of the show holds. And that's where I think it worked the most. Episode 2, where I think it really hit its stride and how it was going to, just kind of stay within its show. Because there's only 2 or 3 hints in this episode, but besides that, it's actually a really funny sitcom. And I'm not the biggest fan of sitcoms, honestly, but this this one in particular, I did actually really enjoy just because of one, it's Marvel characters, and it really makes it work, and it's quite original as well. So I want to give episode 2 an 8.6 out of 10. Coming in at number 4 is episode 8, which I know not a lot of people love this episode, but I actually really, really like it because it dives into the past of Wanda. We have multiple flashbacks, kind of really building you up for the last episode. It really shows you the emotion right before you see the last episode, and I think it really worked this time. I think with most shows, I really expect for the second to last episode to really kind of be like this, and so it didn't necessarily bother me here. But every single flashback scene I absolutely loved. When especially the scene where where the hex is actually created, I absolutely love that. And not to mention, well, I also want to mention how good the score is in this show. I think it's done by Christopher Beck, I believe. Never heard of him before, but wow, he gave a fantastic score. And maybe it's because I heard it at the end of every single episode, so it might just be kind of like a mental thing where I'm like, ooh, WandaVision's over, that's a great episode. Ooh, this is good music, and so it might be a mental effect. But at the moment, I know I really like the score, and it really is pretty good. But enough about that. I did really enjoy episode 8, and I'm going to give episode 8 an 8.6 as well. Coming in at number 3 is the finale of the show. I know a lot of people were disappointed, and probably a lot of people have this a lot lower on their list, but as the show and its contained thing as a whole, it's a really fantastic series finale. I know the only thing that kind of let me down is that the White Vision and Vision fight was just kind of, let's throw you by the cape. Let's just throw each other around. I really wanted a little bit more originality towards this final battle, per se. Of course, all of the birth of the Scarlet Witch scene is probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole show, because I go back and I watch that particular scene over and over, and I get chills every single time. It really wraps up the show as a whole decently. Of course, towards the end, it kind of says like, oh, there's more to it, but you kind of expect that from Marvel at this point. But overall, I really did enjoy the finale, and I want to give the finale a 9 out of 10. Coming in at number 2 is episode 6, which is the Halloween episode, and episode 6 and the one, my number 1 episode, is really where I felt like the show just kind of was at its best. This episode, it's really building up the tension between, well, Wanda and Vision are barely on screen together, probably in only one scene in this episode, but it really starts to build up the ending for Vision in particular. He goes outside the hex, and you see that as he's getting out of the hex, he's literally like being pulled back into it, which is probably one of the more memorable scenes of this series. We have the scene where Wanda literally expands the border of the hex out for miles, and it's the very last shot of the episode. It makes you go, wow. Sorry, my cat is literally rubbing her head against my tripod. I'm about to murder her if she keeps on doing that. But anyways, I want to tell her to get away. Deeply apologize. Anyways, yeah, so anyways, episode 6, the Halloween episodes, it really is probably the most screen time we have from Evan Peters as Pietro. Even though it did kind of end as a disappointment, it's still a nod to the X-Men universe. He played Quicksilver. People are complaining he didn't have enough to do, but it's still a start to the X-Men. There is absolutely no way they cast him and said, oh, we're going to use him as a joke. Like, they did use him as a joke, but he's not just a joke. It's definitely heavily implying into the rest of the X-Men universe. My cat's coming over again, and I swear to God, I will kill her if she... Okay. Anyways, next time. I gave episode 6 a 9.1 out of 10. Coming in at number 1 is episode 5. This was the perfect episode of WandaVision. It had interesting... Sorry, my cat's really distracting me. Had interesting stuff going outside of the hex. It had the classic sitcom kind of Full House style, but yet it still had plot and story driven, especially with Paul Bettany's vision where he snaps on Wanda at the end. And of course, the end reveal of Evan Peters at the end is just what makes this the best episode. It has everything you want from a WandaVision episode. Story being driven forward, a sitcom premise, and then something really crazy and at the end, like that Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, that Vision Wanda and Vision, my God, I can't English today. Argument at the end of this episode is just really tense. I'm never gonna forget watching that for the first time. So yeah, that is my ranking of WandaVision every single episode. I will be doing a ranking of WandaVision included into the multiple Marvel movies. I usually say all Marvel movies ranked, but now I have to say MCU ranked, which I'm fine with doing. So yeah, anyways, that's my ranking of the episodes from WandaVision. So like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.